Hello and welcome to I Am Well podcast. I'm your host Gemma, a nutritionist and a hormonal fasting coach, passionate about self-development through a holistic lens. But my biggest mission is to help empower women and get them to reconnect and trust their bodies again. So if you're a woman who just wants to better herself and live her best life, you're listening to the right podcast. So let's get to it. Hi, and welcome back to I Am Well podcast. Today, I have a guest on for our Wellness Wednesdays, which is really exciting. Another guest for Wellness Wednesdays. I met Emma at the start of this year. She did a breath work session for me when I was in a course, and I was hooked straight away. So I'm really excited to bring her on because she does breath work in a different way to what I've kind of ever seen. She runs it really well, but I know she teaches so much more, and she's like, you're just going to love her. So I can't wait to get stuck into our chat today. But thank you, Emma, for coming on. How are you?
It's my absolute pleasure in one introduction. Thanks, Jam. I am feeling good. We've just wrapped up our podcast episode, so the vibes are on, the yaps are on. I'm feeling really excited and feeling really honored to be on your podcast.
Yeah, we've just gone back to back with podcast switching, which I love. As you said, the vibes are on. We both just cannot stop chatting, which is great. That's what you want on a podcast. But before we get stuck into all the things that you're doing and how you're helping your clients and all those things, what I like doing with my guests is getting to know a bit about how they got started, because I feel like every guest that comes on here, there's some sort of coach or entrepreneur, and they always have a really good backstory. Everyone always has this story to how they get started. So I know yours, and I know how powerful it is, and I know how inspirational it is. So can we start there? I know it's sometimes hard to get your story in a nutshell, so do what you can. And tell us a bit about yourself.
How long do you have?
Yeah, I know, right?
She Flourishes now, my business, where I work on cultivating women's confidence, composure, and fulfillment for around 5 years. So I started it because I was actually living in Bali at the time, and I had a marketing business, but then I was going to all of these different events to do with mindset and limiting beliefs and nervous system. And I tried my first breathwork class, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I was exposed to the life coaching world. And I was like, yeah, this is actually what I want to do. So I studied it. I started the business there, and that was awesome. And then I had that living in Darwin, and then I moved to the Gold Coast. And shortly after moving, I went back to Darwin to host an event for teenage girls. And while I was there, I got really excited at the races one day. And long story short, fell off a cliff 10 meters. So I was in a coma for 2 weeks. I was in hospital for about 4 months and had a traumatic brain injury. So that is when my life started to take a radical turn. So yeah, from that, I did all of the healing. I was like, no, I am not available to have a brain injury. I was really, really grateful that I'd done quite a bit of work on my mindset beforehand with having She Flourishes. So I felt like I could really not play victim to it. I could be really enthusiastic about it. I could be really empowered in my approach. And people would say to me, like, I'm kind of glad it was you, in the respect of like, you can handle it the most out of anyone. And so that was pretty cool, but there was so many lessons and things to come from that. And so, yeah, I saw the therapists, the acupuncturists, nutritionists, doctors, neurosurgeons, like anyone. I just went to appointments 24/7 because I was like, no, this can't hold me back. Like I was 24 at the time. And then I started getting into breath work from my therapist to tell me to do so. So I was doing all of the, really mini breath works, going to the Cool to Be Conscious, doing it every day. And then I was starting to get really insane results because I was like, okay, instead of outsourcing all my healing externally, which is actually the really easier option to do, let's look internally right now. Let's look at how my thoughts, my trauma, my emotions, my behavior, my control over this brain injury is actually impacting the problem. And so I decided to be a certified breathwork practitioner, did a long training, and after that 7 days doing all the breathwork, I just cried tears of joy because I knew that it was the moment that I'd healed from my brain injury, because there were so many moments where I just felt nothing and I wasn't thinking anything. And I was like, wow, like this is insane. And so now, a year and a half later, I embody, teach breathwork as part of my business. So I do online breathwork events, I host in-person breathwork events, I do it with one-on-one clients. I'm obsessed with breathwork. It is something I did it this morning, literally went to this breathwork little session, and it's something that I know for women specifically just creates so much freedom and safety and love within themselves so they can start to really radiate that out to the world and as well as radiate it out, receive it in.
Yeah, that, gosh, if anyone's hearing this story, I really recommend you to look up Emma's Instagram, which I'll leave the links for that. But you have the photos on there from your surgery, and it's incredible how you managed to get yourself out of that. And using breath work too, like, as you said, thank God in a way that it was you and you did know those tools and how to get yourself through that difficult time. But I remember you telling me with your surgery, it kind of affected a certain part of your brain, didn't it? Where it was it to do with your hormones, was it?
The pineal gland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you find that breath work was helpful in that circumstance to help you through when it had affected that certain part of your brain?
Massively.
Mm,
So if I could say like top three things that were affected, I'd say hormone was one of them.
mm,
Definitely. Like before the brain injury, I wasn't into cycle syncing. I kind of just like didn't take much notice. And maybe that's because I had so much going on. But I think it was also because of my brain injury. And so I'd have really seamless periods. It was all good. I'd be like, yeah, I'm so lucky. I don't get affected by anything. And so after the brain injury, I would just get really reactive in my luteal phase. Like, as
mm,
in, I would like punch things, not in front of people, but I would just get so reactive and so heightened. And there would be days where I couldn't get out of bed because I was crying so much. I felt depressed. My neurosurgeon said to me that I had PMDD, which is premenstrual depression disorder, which I maybe did. And then they prescribed me not antibiotics, antidepressants. And I was just like, no, like I am not available to be on antidepressants. Like that is just not going to be part of my life. And so I did the acupuncture, I did the nutritionist, I did the supplements. However, it wasn't until I started really looking internally, as I mentioned before, and being like, okay, how can I just really ramp up my breathwork practices in my luteal phase instead of outsourcing all of my healing to an acupuncturist or to food or to supplements or to whatever, and just really slow down my nervous system and just really choose to be instead of do in my luteal phase, and just also implementing that throughout every single phase. It just changed the game completely. And I was like, I don't need to outsource anything to anyone. Like it's all internally. I'm not taking any accountability for my thoughts right now, no accountability for my feelings or my reactions. And so for me, breathwork has been the most pivotal thing to allow me to start to respond to life, to pause, to slow down, to soften, because inherently I am quite a go, go, go person.
mm.
I am really ambitious. I have a lot of ideas. I have a lot of inspiration. I have a lot of people in my life that I love. I have a lot of things that I love. And breathwork has really allowed me to still be all those things and experience all those things. However, do it from a really grounded place and to really, yeah, allow me to not play victim to my hormones and to also like, I'm not going to discount that we need to cycle sync and we need to really eat with our cycle or move with our cycle and be in tune with our cycle. I'm not discounting those things. However, the most potent thing is just to look internally, and to do that, it is the breath is the best tool to do so.
Mm. And if someone is listening today and they're hearing us talk about breath work and they're thinking, oh, that sounds a little bit woo-woo, like we literally breathe every day, what would you tell them? Like what would you say to start?
Is specifically really not woo-woo. Like it's super feminine, super empowering, really modern. And I'm really passionate about not having this like really misconception about breathwork because as you said, it can be seen as this really weird woo-woo thing that people are having their somatic drumming circles out and there's dreadlocks and people are like that. It's just not my cup of tea. And so Breathwork, essentially what it does is it connects you to your parasympathetic nervous system and your sympathetic nervous system, depending on the breathwork that you're doing. So what that essentially does is allows you to connect with that parasympathetic side, which is your rest and digest nervous system. So it allows you to relax your body, to rest your body, to allows it to restore your body. And then when you access those sympathetic states when doing mouth breathing, what that essentially does is that upgrades your energy. It puts your body into a state of, yeah, quote unquote stress. However, it's really manageable stress, a manageable stress. So when you're able to really bounce between both, what that essentially does, it creates flexibility in the nervous system. So that means that you can access these really beautiful, restful states, even when things are chaotic. And it means that you can access these states of heightened awareness when you do need to get things done. And so to have flexibility in the nervous system is absolutely key because there are so many demands going on, so many pressures that women can face. But it's when you can start to really respond rather than react, it is beautiful. And breathwork also allows you to bring your body back to a state of balance. So when your body is in that really homeostasis state where your pH balance is really good, everything's working cohesively, that essentially gives you a really beautiful foundation to be able to go after your goals and dreams. Because if your body is dysregulated and your body isn't in a state of balance, what that could mean is that you're having these really hectic hormonal issues, or your immune system's really bad, or you have no energy, or you're overwhelmed and anxious. And when we're in these states, we're not going to do the risks and the things required to really go after our dreams and goals because we're just trying to survive, right? Like we don't have the resources or energy. And so breathwork allows you to make everything work really cohesively, really well, so you can just start to really thrive in your life.
And I can definitely attest to that. Like it is incredible. When as soon as you just start to just do the breathing through the nose and you are really intentional with it, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm kind of quite calm now. Like before, I was thinking a million things at once. And I know that's a big game changer for me in my business. When I've focused on the breath, I then be able to sit in silence easier. And then all of a sudden, ideas come to me, or things that I've already had ideas implemented. They're a bit clearer and I can go back and refine them. So I know it's definitely helping for me and connecting to my intuition and helping me in business. So yeah, I love that. Can you talk a bit about the mouth breathing? Because I have done a few of your breathwork sessions now, and actually, you were the first breathwork session I ever did. And the mouth breathing, that was actually something that I had never experienced before. I was always told about, I know it's better to breathe through your nose. You see that all over social media too, especially if you're in the wellness algorithm. But the mouth breathing, that was really interesting. Like it made me feel a whole new feeling I've never felt before. Like I was like on the clouds or something. Can you explain what this is doing?
Definitely. And I do want to firstly touch on the whole mouth breathing conversation because as you said, it is recommended to not mouth breathe from a moment to moment basis. So I don't want people to listen to this podcast and be like, I should be mouth breathing. No, intentional mouth breathing and breathwork sessions, that is what we're chasing, what we're talking about right now. But it is really good to focus on that slow nostril breath from a moment to moment basis. Like even now, I'm sleeping with mouth tape on my mouth, and it has been so game changing for me. And when I first heard it, I was like, that is so cool. I would never do that. And I was just imagining someone laying there with duct tape. And I'm like, that's so weird, but it's absolutely game changing. So I do recommend looking into that and just really checking in with how you're breathing and ensuring that it's through the nose. But what Jem's talking about with the mouth breathing, so essentially that's the conscious connected breathing. And that's connecting you to that sympathetic nervous system state. So it is putting your body into a state of arousal and stress, and it releases serotonin and really feel good hormones in your brain. And yeah, it does give you these feelings of tingling. It can even potentially like make your hands clock up like tetany, and it just gives you this really full body sensation basically. And what that essentially does is that really upgrades everything internally. So if you think about like attracts like, energy attracts energy, you're always going to be a vibrational match to what it is that you want to achieve. That is one of the best ways to do it because you're essentially upgrading your energy within you. So you start to feel really radiant and magnetizing. And it also allows you to drop into those meditative states a lot easier. So people that do breath work, and even myself, express that they can drop into their body a lot easier compared to if they were just laying there trying to meditate, because it gives you this somewhat distraction, and it just gives you this really, like, for me, deep connection to your body. Because 9 times out of 10, if you can just simply drop into your body and feel your breath and let whatever it is that's your problem go, it's probably going to get resolved. So the more that we can build this really beautiful, strong relationship with our body, the more that we can feel safe to be in our body by doing things such as breath work, the more that we can just enjoy the fullness of our life. And the more that we can feel alive in our senses. And that's what the mouth breathing does. It allows you to really tap into your senses and get out of that monkey mind and just really feel connected to your intuition, your heart, and your fullest expression.
Mm. I had, as I said, you were the first one that I've ever done breath work before with, and it wasn't anything like I've ever expected. And it was one of the, I think it was a longer one, so it was like a 40-minute one. But I instantly became obsessed. That's not how, for someone who had no idea really what breathwork meant, that's not how I thought a session would run. And it was incredible. Like, I loved it. Can we go back to the nose breathing a bit again? Because that was really interesting when you said how you put the tape over your mouth and you try to make sure that you're breathing through your nose at night. What are the real benefits of this? I know you touched a little bit on of it then, but especially during night, what's the benefits of breathing through your nose rather than your mouth at night?
So when you breathe through your mouth at night, you're not filtering out any toxins in the air. So if there are any toxins in the air or anything going on, they're actually entering your body through your mouth. And is also connecting to your sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for your stress. So this can lead to things such as a poor quality of sleep, poor immune function. It just really impacts the way that you sleep, essentially. And so sleep is everything, right? It makes sure that your body is working well, your brain's working well, your energy is on point. And so if you sleep with your mouth open, it can affect your REM sleep, it can affect your quality of sleep. And so doing things such as mouth tape, even though it feels really uncomfortable and weird at the beginning, honestly, when I first woke up, I was like, is this how everyone wakes up? Like, you wake up with so much more clarity, so much more calmness, and you just know that you've had the most peaceful sleep. And for me, I love simplicity. I love doing things that I'm going to do anyway. And so that's why I always think about, like, meditating when I wake up anyway, or doing affirmations when I'm in the shower, because I'm doing something anyway. And so for me, it's really beautiful to know that I'm going to sleep anyway. And so putting a mouth tape over my mouth every single night, even though some nights I just take it off in my sleep, but I can't control that. And the 2 times that I've worn my mouth tape in the past 6 months, I've got sick. And so if that doesn't prove to you how much it does really impact your immune system and just your overall health benefits, then don't know what is.
Oh my gosh. I'm like gonna have to go get mouth tape. I think my biggest fear around that is like you see in the movies where like there's always like the kidnapper, like they're putting the mouth tape over. I think I'm gonna like all of a sudden wake up thinking I'm being kidnapped and then forget I've got the mouth tape on.
Which we can leave in the show notes. I just low key, like, if they're listening and they want to sponsor me, please do. So they're really, really good. So it's like, oh, I have some here actually, if you want to see it. So essentially, it's like a more thin.
Ah, that looks a bit more
Yeah,
breathable.
it's breathable. So essentially, it's like it's breathable. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I'm thinking of like, the duct tape.
No, not the duct tape. You're not being tied up. Just all of a sudden, you wake up in like the garden. Yeah.
I
No, it's
know.
really breathable. I've tried heaps of different things because this is a bit more on the spenny side, but I'm willing to pay for it because it's so worth it. And I've tried different things. I haven't tried the duct tape because I don't know if I would wake up.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. That's what I was panicked about. But what you showed there, that looks really breathable. So yeah, I think I'll have to give that a shot because
I
that'd
do.
be really interesting. Because I always feel like I breathe through my nose at night, but then I'll wake up or something at one point. I could have like dribble or something coming down. I'm like, damn it, I breathe through my mouth.
Yeah, most people breathe through their mouth. And I notice just like when I wake up, I used to have a really sore throat and dry mouth. And You just honestly just your mental clarity as well. Like it really affects your mental clarity, your brain cognition, everything.
Yeah, I'll have to try this for sure. Now we love cycle syncing here, and you briefly touched on that too. And I know you've had a few one-to-one clients this year. I would love to hear your take on how you include cycle syncing with your breath work and regulating your nervous system and how you help this with your clients.
Absolutely. So I actually have a cycle syncing guide, which we can leave in the show notes. And I was really intentional to doing a certain breath for each phase. So
Oh,
outline the breaths now if you'd like me to for each.
yes. Yes, love that.
For our menstrual phase, so our period, so it's, you're probably better at this than me in terms of the logistics, but usually around 5 to 7 days.
Hmm.
And so with that, the breath that I really like to do is more about like calming, grounding breath. So breathing in through the nose for 4, holding at the top for 8, and then breathing out of the nose for 8. And so that's the breath that I like to use in my menstrual phase because that just really allows me to connect with my intuition, connect with myself, and just really slow down my nervous system because that's what's required. And then we go to the next phase, the follicular phase. So this can be, is it up to 10 days, this phase?
Yeah, the whole follicular phases. Yeah.
Yep, yep. So this is where you get a spring in your step and you start to feel a lot more energized, a lot more spicy in a sense, because you have different chemicals going off in yourself. And so the breath that I love to use in this phase is more of an energizing breath because you are going to feel energized and that's going to be really nourishing for you. So I like to do the breath of fire. So essentially what that is going to sound super weird if you're not watching the video, but essentially what that is that it's breathing really fast through your mouth. So you can listen and watch here. So it's like, so doing that around 30 times because that's going to really energize your nervous system and that's going to be really productive and nourishing to you in this phase because you do have this extra boost of energy. And
Right.
then we go to the ovulation phase. So this phase is where your energy is at its peak and it's actually really interesting because your facial features and your energy actually changes because we are in a state to conceive, to have children. And so the body's really smart, right? So you actually look and feel your most attractive in this phase because it's when you're supposed to attract the mate to conceive and have children. And so you know what? In this phase, it's no breaths required. It's a dancing one. So it's a bit of a like dancing around the room, just putting on your favorite music. It's really connecting to your body. And just while you're doing it, being really connected to that breath as well. And so it's like really getting into your body, moving. Your body's going to really feel nourished when it's moving and dancing and having fun and really just feeling alive in your senses. And then the last phase, which is your luteal phase, which can be 10 to 14 days. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
So that is one of the most challenging phases that women can face. It can be quite emotional. It can be quite tightening unless you're doing the work and really aligning with your cycle. And this is a really beautiful phase to slow down. So to slow down your workouts, to slow down your sex, to slow down your movement, to slow down your productivity, to slow down your social events. And so this can be a phase where we can feel a little bit more heightened and maybe a bit more reactive compared to usual. And so your absolute best friend in this phase is going to be the sigh breath. So essentially what that looks like is breathing in through the nose and then in through the nose again and then sighing out and being as loud and expressive as you can in the moment. And just doing that when you start to feel a bit dysregulated, a bit just like things are feeling a little bit chaotic or emotional. And so instead of reacting, really tuning in with this breath because this breath allows you to release any tension that you feel from a really somatic body level and just release it out. And so you'd rather release the tension from your body compared to yelling at somebody else. So that is how I like to incorporate breath with the cycle. And that has been absolutely game changing for me to really notice what breath I'm craving in the moment and to really work with my nervous system to allow me to, yeah, just feel really a lot more in tune with what's going on and to really utilize my mind, body, and soul to work with my cycle instead of against it.
This is so cool because I've never heard from anyone do teach like a breath work that's in sync with their cycle. And I obviously am obsessed with cycle syncing. So I'm definitely going to give this a go. When someone is implementing this, how long is there should they be doing it straight away in the mornings? And how long for should a breath work session kind of go for? Or is it only just kind of pulling it out in times of need? Like how would you recommend it for your clients?
On not having like one way fits all. And so you're probably maybe not going to have the space to do it every single morning because life happens. Some women have children, job demands, a partner, like life happens. And I'm really, really big on just not adding any unnecessary cortisol to anything you're doing if you are cycle syncing. And so, taking away all the pressure, what I really love to do is doing it as soon as I wake up because the way that I think about it is like I'm waking up anyway, and doing it just really allows you to set your tone and your energy for the day. And when I'm doing it, I really feel into my higher self and I feel into like, okay, what's your energy like today? And I feel it from a really somatic level. Um, but again, it kind of just depends. Like I love to do really bigger breathwork sessions around once per week. I'm a breathwork practitioner, so obviously it's in my blood, and I find that really nourishing. So that's what I like to do, and I'll either do a more parasympathetic, so more of that slow nostril breathing, or more of that sympathetic nervous system one, so more of that mouth breathing, depending what phase I'm in.
Mm.
You could do it when you're going to bed as well. So that's also a really simplistic way to implement it into your life because you're going to sleep anyway. So adding it to your night routine. And if you have time to do 30, do 30. If you have time to do 100, do 100. If you have time to do 10, do 10. The key is to just be consistent. And that's why I love everything that I teach and embody. It's because you don't need to carve out the space and time. You can do it while you're driving the car. I do
Mm.
in the car all the time because we're driving anyway. And so it's not about, especially in that luteal phase, like less is more. So
Mm.
if I said you need to carve out an extra hour for every single day to do breath work, your nervous system, your body is going to be like, oh, one more thing to do. Like I don't want to add anything more to my calendar. So less is more, and just really tuning with what your body wants as well, because that's going to be a really game changing thing for you. Um, and yeah, just having fun with it as well. And just my biggest thing with breathwork is I love taking my clients through one-on-one sessions and events and like doing the big conscious connected 50-minute breathwork. Like that is the most game-changing thing to do. However, I see it as more of a way of being, and as you said before, like using it as a tool in the moment. If
Mm.
someone's cutting off in traffic and you're in your luteal phase and you're like, I just can't handle this, doing that side breath, or if you're about to go on a date or do some sort of really big thing in your ovulation phase, doing the dancing, or in the follicular phase, you're about to go do something that you're a bit scared of, doing that fast mouth breath to really give you the energy to be able to cultivate and to really just be in your fullest expression.
Mm. That's going to be even a huge game changer for mums because there are so many times where, and I've even talked about this to Gabby, who's my business partner, and we'll say like it's so annoying when we get up and do our morning routine. Like people always say, get up early before the kids, do it before the kids. And we do the things like I do the meditation, the breath work, the journaling, like all the things before the kids get up. And then the kids get up and I'll be really calm and centered. And then all of a sudden, just like that, they've spilt something. Then they start trashing. The one's hitting the other, and you're like, I just did a whole calming session this morning, and you guys are freaking me out. Like,
That's
so
me.
yeah, so just leaning into that is just such a game changer. And it's something I must admit that I do forget because I keep thinking it's got to be like as you said, like a certain set time, like I've got to carve time out. Like I forget that we can literally use breath in under a minute. Like we could just literally start using it right then and there. I keep thinking it's got to be like when you're journaling or something like that, that you've got to carve out this time. So thank you for telling us about the cycle syncing because that is massive. Like that's huge. Definitely will have to even look at your cycle guide. So with what you're doing at the moment, what's coming up in your world and how are you helping your clients too? Like get what are the things that you're kind of working on with them at the moment?
So at the moment, I'm doing online breathwork events. So I've got my next one coming up next Thursday, all about entering 2025, being hot and healed. So that's going to be really amazing. And working with my clients, I do a lot of nervous system regulation, as we've kind of touched on, which I utilize breathwork, but it's also one of the biggest things is just creating this really beautiful foundation of love and safety and calmness and respect for yourself and kindness that you know that you can return home to no matter what externally is happening to you. So that really gives you the foundation to take up space, to stop being a people pleaser, to take the risks required to go after your dreams, to honestly just have an idea and then execute it and not be caught up by anything because you know that you can return home to this and really relying on that more internal validation piece because so many women just do rely on that external validation, whether it be through partners or through work or through money or through success in any context. But it's like when you have this really beautiful foundation within you and you can internally validate yourself, you no longer go after the toxic people, places, or situations because you've got it within you. And so the biggest work that I do is really helping my clients to overcome their fear of judgment, their fear of failure, their fear of rejection, their fear of abandonment. And one of the biggest ways to do that, as I just spoke about before, really, it all starts from the internal sense because you can't be rejected unless you reject yourself. You can't fear judgment unless you're judging yourself. You can't fail unless you feel like you're failing within yourself. And you can't actually be abandoned unless you feel like you're abandoning yourself. And so it all comes back down to that really internal lens. So yeah, people pleasing is a massive one, self-sabotage, massive one, anxiety, overwhelm. Yeah, they're the main things that I work with clients on and just really giving them this beautiful foundation so they can not settle for what they've unconsciously settled, not settle for what they've unconsciously attracted, and really start to create a life that they deserve, that they're proud of, that they're excited about, and create a really beautiful, nourishing relationship with themselves.
Mm, yes, I love that. That's amazing. And yes, I love your online events, so I couldn't recommend them enough to anyone else, especially if you just need that reset before the busy season, before end of year. So if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how's the best way?
So Instagram, most certainly. I'll leave it in the show notes. Definitely send me a message on Instagram. Even if you just want to chat about anything within the episode, I am so happy to hold space and give love. And yeah, everything that I spoke about, I just absolutely love helping everyone with. So most certainly Instagram. I am on TikTok with my podcast. So I've got a podcast called The Aligned and Activated, and I've got a TikTok for that. And yeah, come say hello because I love to connect. I love to just share what has really helped me and just hold space for every single woman out there.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you so much, Emma, for coming on. You are such a breath of fresh air. You're so lovely to talk to. And you've taught me so much this year, even in my own self and all the breathwork things. Like it's honestly helped me with my business too. So I can definitely attest to that for clients or potential clients listening. So yes, it's been so amazing to chat with you. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Anyway, we'll leave it there. And yes, as Emma said, if you want to reach out, all the links are in the show notes below. Otherwise, I will talk to you all in the next episode. Bye, guys.